Module 3, Super Optimism, written by Dr. George Tannous and narrated by Lydia. Greetings, welcome to lifecoachbootcamp.com. Important. Before you study this lesson, please watch this video. Why? Example. If you or your client are in a relationship and the other person displayed an attitude of not being truthful, you need to master and you need to educate your client the following. Confront and level. Assertive communications. As well as I feel good, PST. Positive self-talk. Make sure to answer the questions at the end and follow the instructions for submission. You might be asking yourself, I am not a criminal, why do I need to learn this? Well, the answer is simple. We are all humans, and super optimism is recognized by psychologists as a criminal thinking error. Study it, don't be super optimistic. Is the glass half empty or half full? We all have heard this question. People ask this question to understand whether a person is an optimist or a pessimist. If you say the glass is half empty, you are seen as a person who tends to believe in the worst outcomes. If you say the glass is half full, you are seen as a person who sees something positive in every situation. A pessimistic attitude is often looked down upon, and optimism is often applauded. We are always encouraged to look at the bright side of a situation. We are advised to act in a positive direction. There are many upsides of having a positive outlook. It boosts your self-esteem, keeps you happy, improves your relationships, and builds confidence that helps you achieve your goals. But what happens when a person becomes so optimistic that he ignores all the negative sides of a situation even when they are obvious? This attitude is known as super optimism, and it's one of the 8 criminal thinking errors according to The Criminal Lifestyle. Patterns of Serious Criminal Conduct, by Glenn D. Walters. But isn't being optimistic a good thing, and how is that different from being super optimistic? If someone always chooses to see the bright side, what's wrong with that? How can a positive mindset lead to negative consequences? Before we answer these questions, it's important to understand what super optimism really is. So, let's dive in. What is super optimism? There is a huge difference between being optimistic and being super optimistic. Let's understand this by an example. Imagine you have a job interview. Thinking that you can clear that interview because you have prepared and studied hard is optimism. But when you think there is a 0% chance of rejection, that not only you'll make it, but you get a superior salary, is super optimism. There are 2 types of optimists: a realistic optimist and a super optimist. A realistic optimist also chooses to look at the bright side, but when he faces a situation with negative aspects, he also takes them into account and makes decisions accordingly. Instead of being in denial, a realistic optimist chooses to act only after considering all the positive and negative outcomes of a situation. But in the case of super optimistic person, things are different. A super optimistic person chooses to sweep away all the negative possibilities and considers only the positive aspect of a situation. He turns a blind eye toward the negative aspects and makes decisions by considering only the sunny side. While everyone advises to look at the bright side, too much positivity can easily backfire. And this is one factor that's common among many criminals. Super optimism in criminals. Have you ever wondered why people commit crimes? Have you ever wondered why criminals do what they do even though they are aware that there is a good chance of ending up in jail? Have you ever wondered why they risk their freedom for the sake of small pleasures? It's because they indulge in super optimism. When it comes to criminal thinking, an outline of a plan or a blueprint becomes the reality. Once they create a plan, it's all good to go. Even though they are aware of the possible consequences, they know they might get caught, tased, hurt, or even killed. They choose to shut down these thoughts that keep them in touch with the reality. They choose to indulge in dreaming about the success of their plan and deny all the negative outcomes of a situation. Most criminals during their trials admit that they didn't think they would ever get caught. Even though it's obvious that when it comes to acts that break the law, there is always a possibility of getting caught, their minds choose to shut out the reality. In many cases, super optimism not only rules one aspect, but influences other decisions even in day-to-day lives. People who habitually fantasize about positive outcomes are often intolerant of any hurdles or roadblocks. They often lash out on people who try to render them a glimpse of reality, or try to stop the career criminals from breaking the law. Any disruption in the plan can cause criminals to become violent. A minor disturbance results in major outbursts. For example, A person who wants others to move fast in a crowded store will behave angrily with people moving slowly. He wouldn't consider the fact that the store is crowded. A reckless super-optimistic driver will try to overtake a driver driving the speed limit. He won't even consider the possibility of causing an accident or harming others. Impact of super-optimism. One of the biggest disadvantages of super-optimism is that it inflates your ego. A super-optimistic person lives a delusional life and denies all the possibilities that can help him keep in touch with reality. Now imagine if you make decisions by only considering the positive aspect of a situation. What do you think will happen? Even though many gurus preach to be positive, when a person makes a decision only by considering positive aspects, he easily becomes crippled when the situation backfires. A super-optimistic person is usually so busy in his dreamland that he fails to prepare for the hard times. This harsh reality often hits a super-optimist hard, and the person can find himself falling into a downward spiral. So, what's the solution? There is no doubt that positivity is a lucrative industry. From self-help experts to homegrown YouTube superstars, everyone preaches the concept of optimism. There have been many books, CDs and podcasts on the positivity that are overly hyped. While being an optimist is great, being able to look at the negative side of the situation is also important. Instead of drifting off to the dreamland, it's important to keep in touch with reality. This helps a person make better decisions. Not only considering the negative aspects of a situation helps you keep an open mind and welcome a situation, but also helps you learn and grow. Imagine if all the people who broke laws started considering the possibility of getting caught or killed. Wouldn't we have better societies? The essay. Please write an essay, up to 2 pages, about a past experience you or someone you know had when you were super optimistic. Tell us in detail who, what, when, where, why, to whom, the time, the place of what you did, the outcome. And tell us in detail how you could have changed that use from what you learned today, so the outcome would have been good. Internalize this lesson. Make it become a part of you. Share your story in the forums. Our advice is for you to practice not being super optimistic for at least a week. Tell others around you to point out any event in which you didn't. Have them hold you accountable. Visit the forum and do a confession. What is a confession? A confession is when you've displayed a wrong behavior and were held accountable by one of your family members, peers, or even yourself. Visit the forum and tell us about it. We will give you feedback. Make sure to watch the video about confession for more details. Furthermore, become a member of the forum and give feedback to others. Read the article? Time to introspect. Do you find yourself neglecting negative consequences of situations? Has super optimism ever backfired on you? What adversities did you face because of this attitude? Would you call yourself a realistic optimist? What do you do when you face setbacks? How do you handle difficult situations? Do you consult people while making an important decision? How do you see the negative side after creating the complete plan? There is no way any relationship will survive without having the qualities mentioned above. Make sure to read each article carefully at least 3 times. Print your workbook and answer all questions. Once you have completed this entire journey, you will be issued a life coach certificate, so long as you've been a member of the forums. Also, follow the instruction for sharing your story in our forums, as well as participating in our forums, especially our unique Confessions forum, so you may gain practice, knowledge, experience, and expertise. I am thankful that you have given me this opportunity to share all of this with you. May God bless you and bring prosperity and peace into your life. Respectfully yours, George Tannous, Ph.D.